Everyone fresh off their victory over Dignitas and multiple pauses. The client didn't want to let him win. It is Evil Genius's coach Artemis joining me here to discuss that last match and this week. How's it going, brother?
Good. Doing great. It was a nice win. Happy to finish 2-1. Everything's good on my end. What about you?
Things are good here, man. Content is going and flowing. And, you know, that game didn't feel as dominant as I thought it could have, but when you look at the standings, that is one of your main competitors. What was that like on the back end with the pauses as well as like the scrappy nature of that game?
Yeah, definitely far from clean for us. I think a bit disappointed today with our mid game. Actually, probably really disappointed with our mid game compared to our mid game yesterday. A lot of that I think was due to the pauses. Like you could tell that after the pauses, actually after the second pause especially, that we were just a bit out of flow. Like we kind of lost our pulse on how we were going to shift and what we're actually doing with our macros. So it was a bit sloppy from us today, but super pleased with the result. I was working at Clutch Gaming during their 9th place to Worlds run, then became Dignitas and then chose to leave. And then since then, I couldn't beat Dignitas. I felt like I was cursed or something. So nice to finally beat Dignitas, which has been my kryptonite since I left. And they are a team with a similar ranking than us, but I don't think we're close at all in terms of skill. I think that we are much better than Dignitas. With or without their roster changes, doesn't matter. I just think we're a much better team. And we were a bit unfortunate in the spring split and even in summer split where we dropped our start of the split, we went 0-3. Could have easily went 3-0 that weekend, I think, at least 2-1. And then in spring split, we also dropped some games too. We're a little inconsistent right now, which means that as far as our win-loss tally, it doesn't accurately reflect our skill.
Well, one thing that you did do was obviously the big move, putting contracts in yesterday, and had the chance to sit with him, talk with him yesterday. A great story. He said, I knew coming into the week what was happening, so I assume you knew that, hey, Svenskjaeren's getting 2, Contracts is getting 1. Was that the plan, and what's the plan moving forward with this 6-man roster?
Yeah, that's been the plan. And internally as a staff, we've been thinking about when we want to use Juan, when we want to use Dennis. We've been scrimming with Juan in the LCS team in some capacity since the start of the year, really. So this is nothing new for Juan. Like he's been getting comfortable with our roster because we're giving him reps every single week, and we're getting more comfortable with him too. And depending on our opponent, we think that Contracts and Svenskjaeren have different strengths and different profiles as junglers, and we plan to use them matchup dependent. So I think there's a good chance that you'll see more of Contracts this split, but you're also going to be seeing a lot of Dennis too. We think that both of these junglers are, they're some of the top players in their position, and we have both on one team, right? So it's a huge advantage for us. And the way that we're able to collaborate in practice, I think has been so big for both Dennis and Juan, or Svenskjaeren and Contracts, where we have Turtle, Gabriel. He is, he's one of our assistant coaches here at Evil Geniuses, but he's also a jungle specialist. He actually played jungle professionally in CBLON down in Brazil. And when Dennis is playing in Academy, he's working with Dennis in Academy. When Juan is playing LCS, like sometimes he works with Juan. He goes and works across both junglers in both Academy and LCS. And he works them against each other too. Like he'll have Dennis sit down with him and watch, Juan's game plan from LCS and vice versa too. So having those 3 jungle perspectives in one team is a huge advantage for us because they're able to bounce off each other and talk about pathing and just talk about jungle, which is really unique compared to laning. And I've been super pleased with the work that those 3 have done this year. And I think it's a big reason why both Dennis and Juan have had a really strong split.
Do you have position coaches for every role?
So the way it works at EG right now is we have Domashmi, or Nash now, who's a bot lane specialist. I'm a bot lane specialist, and Peter is a bot lane specialist too. So maybe we're too heavy-handed on bot lane specialists.
I see.
But Peter's been working with our solo laners, and Turtle's been working with our junglers. We do a ton of one-on-one coaching with these guys, and that's kind of like the structure when it comes to our one-on-ones. And then as far as leading practice, Peter leads of the majority of our reviews. I'm leading maybe, I don't know, 10 to 20% or something like that. And then for draft, we go back and forth. Like the weekend before this, I was leading all our drafts on stage and in practice, and then this week I was dealing with some personal things. I wasn't able to be as focused at practice as I would have liked. So Peter drafted for our first game of the weekend, and then we kind of split it 50-50. We both had some influence on Saturday, and then I drafted today with Mash. So it's a really nice division of labor. I think that we're all able to play to our strengths as a staff, and we're able to be fluid and cover for each other and do a lot of different jobs. So I've really enjoyed working with this coaching group this year.
Obviously, Peter Dunn coming in is a big voice on the Twitter space. He was able to weigh in on NA while he was still over in LEC, I think accurately, and then comes on over, runs EG. What has that experience been like with you, who has had Worlds experience, who has ran a team, who has worked his way up the ladder, and now you're working with someone more tenured, but you've had tenure yourself? Like, how do you I guess, resolve all of that personally, and how does that work together working with Peter?
Yeah, great question. It's definitely a challenge personally to to change your role within a structure, right? And in spring, as you referenced, I was leading a team, and I've led teams before. And then Peter came in summer and took a more active leadership role as far as the high level direction that he wanted to take the LCS team, as well as our academy amateur, which he was already doing in spring. And with that change, I had to kind of slot myself into a new position. And I've been growing into that this split. And now I'm really happy with the division of labor we have, and I'm happy with what I do, and feel like I have a lot of influence in our direction as a team in practice, whether it's through draft or otherwise. And then also, I'm happy that I can be leading draft on stage, not every time, but half the time or the majority of the time. It allows me to work in areas where I think that I excel, and also like give Peter the control that he should have, because Peter is an amazing coach, and I've been really fortunate to be able to work with Peter this year because I've learned a lot from him. Game wise, I think that he's super sharp when it comes to mid game rotations and lane setups. Mm-hmm. This is something that he understands almost perfectly. He has a very dialed in read on how the game should be played when it comes to mid game rotations and how you play off waves, and he's able to communicate that in a way that's very effective to the players. I think one of my favorite things about Peter is just the way he frames things, and the way that just like his verbiage and his vocabulary when it comes to describing the game, whether it's to me or to the players. I think he excels at that, and it's really easy for them to kind of get on the same page within his system. So game-wise, it's been nice to learn from him, and then also, of course, like outside the game, just watching another skilled coach operate, whether it's dealing with players, dealing with personal problems, all that stuff. It's just good to see what Peter can do, because as you mentioned, he's a tenured coach with a lot of experience. He's very skilled in these areas. So it's good for me to have somebody around that, one, I can learn from directly, but also somebody around who will challenge me, whether directly again or indirectly, and just feel like like I'm being challenged in practice and I'm being challenged on stage, which I think is really good for my personal development. So super happy with the setup we have, and grateful that we were able to land Peter in the offseason.
So with that, a lot of learning from you, had to concede a little bit of the role that you had, find a new niche for you, level up. Does that mean next year or just in the future, you're looking back to get into a head coaching role to take the reins of a squad?
I think that naturally that's the transition that will take place, whether at EG or a different organization. Mm-hmm. I think that I have the skill set to make that happen, where not only can I work through early game, whether it's jungle pathing or with how you play waves in the early game, I can also teach setups in mid game, whether it's lane setups and wave setups where you're playing for objective, or the objective setups themselves, late game macro, and then all the out of game stuff too, whether it's solving interpersonal conflicts, managing a team, managing a coaching group, which I think is kind of an under talked about skill now, where now LCS teams have a pretty fully fleshed out coaching group with head coaches, assistant coaches, strategic coaches, positional coaches, analysts, data analysts. There's a lot of people that have to be managed, and I think that fits my skill set. So we'll see what happens. Right now, I'm not focused on any of that. I'm just really enjoying my time at Evil Geniuses, really enjoying my time working underneath Peter.
Right.
And I'm going to continue working hard. I'm going to continue to learn, and hopefully we're going to continue to win and make a pretty surprising result.
Artemis, you're too well-spoken, which is why when we did the Collegiate Championship in 2019, you were a great analyst. So to close it out, you get one-word answer. What is a realistic position that Evil Geniuses finishes the summer split?
First.
as you should say. There's only one real answer there. Thank you so much for making time with me. Thank you for shedding a little bit light on what your journey's been like. And best of luck for the rest of the split, brother.
Thanks, Digon. It was fun to talk to you. Appreciate it.
See ya.